marketing plan aspect of it. And here's where we really shine. You know, LPT Realty, and I want to give you a little history. A lot of you probably don't know this. A lot of times people will say, what does LPT stand for? And it stands for Listing Power Tool. So a little history lesson, right? So you got Robert Palmer, who is the founder and CEO of the company, super successful lender, RP funding. And he got this incredible idea to offer this marketing box to real estate agents. So he basically went into the publishing business. And this marketing box sold by the thousands. He had thousands of customers that were paying a subscription fee to have access to these kits every time they took a listing. So these became very well known throughout the industry. And then as time went on, Robert decided that the only way he was truly going to impact agents on any kind of a level was to actually launch his own brokerage. But he kept the name Listing Power Tools Realty. So here's where the unfair advantage comes in. This is what we call the magic white box. Now, one of the reasons why I hesitate doing this presentation via Zoom is you're not going to have a chance to touchy-feely the marketing pieces like I do when I do a live presentation. Steve knows what I'm talking about. He goes, but when you see this box right here, this is the magic box. So every single LPT agent needs to do something right out of the gate. You need to order your sample kit. There you go. There's Steven. For $99, you can order a sample kit because you don't want to walk in empty-handed. You want to walk in being able to show them a sample. So in the industry, this has become known as the magic white box. And I'm going to show you what's inside of it and how to properly introduce it to the consumer. But when you open it up, it's pretty impressive. It's 188 pieces. 188 pieces, and it's broken down into small flyers, large flyers, thank you cards, postcards, all of that stuff, right? So write this down, get this done. Soon as you're in the system, soon as you have access to LPT Connect, you have got to go into the marketing area, make sure your photo is on there, you picked out the color schemes, and you order your initial kit. Because you're going to walk in and say, here's what your home is going to look like. You can't go in there and saying, look, just imagine. You have to physically have the box with you. And I would say something that you should, by this time next week, the vast majority of you should already have a box in hand. Okay. By the end of the year, you guys should all have your boxes in hand. Okay. Now, I'm a little different. I don't know if you picked up on this by now. I'm a little bit on the, cutting edge side. And I decided to do my own thing. So I got this box here. Oh! And here's why I did it. Because as much as I love the white box, this white box gets dirty. And the stuff starts to fall apart and starts to move all over the place and everything. So I wanted them, when I walked in, to say, what's he got in that briefcase? Now, I've seen some people with LPT that use all different types of cases and sizes. I've seen one dude that uses like a hunting rifle case. And I don't know why he does that. I think that might scare the what out of them when you're walking in with a rifle case to do it. Maybe a violin case, maybe. I don't know, but I like this here. And here's what I'm going to do. I had to shop around for the right size. The first one that I ordered on Temu came in, and I think it was about this big. And I said, man, next time I got to pay attention to the size. And by the way, I ordered proudly from Temu. My wife makes fun of me, but I got every single tool you could ever imagine. I got tools I'm never going to need that I got from Temu. But anyway, moving on. And notice I had a label made up, and it's got my Xtreme by LPT logo. But I'm going to give Rudy the link to the Amazon link to the case. Okay. And so here's what I wanted. I wanted when I opened the case up for them to go. So here's the first thing I'll tell you. I'm going to talk about the sign writer in a second, but the sign writer is a tad big. So be prepared to cut the sign writer. Okay, this is your sample one, so don't freak out. It's your sample one. And then so it fits in there, so it'll close. Now, the case comes with foam already, but I bought an extra foam because I didn't want the pieces to be moving around. You know, I didn't want to open it up and it looks like some kid's toy chest that they just opened up. So to keep the products from moving around, I put an extra layer of foam. You know what I was gonna do? I was gonna cut out every single one around the thing, and I said, forget that noise. This looks good enough. So I'm gonna send you the link for the case and the foam. The foam actually gives you double what you need. So if one of you goes in on the foam, then you guys can split the cost on the foam. And all I did was take and cut it in half, put it in there, and it's ready to go. So far, so good. Got thumbs up. Everybody good on there?
That's good. That's good, Tony. And our office, we just did our launch. Our team just did our launch literally 5 days ago, Tony. And yesterday, literally within less than 24 hours ago, I just approved our logo. So this everybody here, if you are part of our partner real estate team in the existing rosters, right now we are as you 1 hour ago, we have the finalized list that goes to printing. So everybody here already got the sample listing power toolbox, and you do not need to do anything. You do not need to order. I've ordered it for you. It's coming in uh before Christmas. It's
Oh,
gonna be the Christmas present.
oh yeah. So you probably worked that out, so they're not even having to pay for it, huh?
It's part of our partner real estate team that's already part of our group. Tony, everybody during our launch day, Tony, less than 5 days ago, everybody loves it. We have 100% engagement
Mm,
to LPT. So this is just we get everybody this listing power toolbox. Everybody come in the mail just as a way to
fantastic.
say thank you for becoming a good partner.
Okay, good. Well, good, good, good. So that's fantastic. I did a presentation for another group in a different state, the same presentation, and the vast majority of the agents in the room had not even gone as far as getting their sample kit, which is insane to me. Okay, so you guys are so far ahead of the curve. And again, that's the leadership you have with partners. Okay, that's amazing. All right, so here's where I'm going to combine the Robert Palmer approach. So what I'm going to do is this. I'm also going to send you a link to a very old video that RP did when he was selling these kits. And it was basically him saying, this is how you use it. And this is the one that I've watched over and over and over again saying, man, he's good. And then I said, let me show you how I'm going to make it a little bit different. Now, what you're going to find is that I've updated the numbers on my end to actually reflect the numbers that are today. You may see some numbers that are older. So remember, I told you I had that survey, that profile that I did. I updated mine so that I can talk about actual numbers. So here's the first thing you do. All right. You're sitting there. Now you're ready to do it. And here's the thing that's super, super important, guys. You have to literally pull the box out. Okay. It's important you pull the box out and you open it in front of them. And then I want you to be prepared as I show you to hand them the physical pieces as you go along. It is not enough for them to be sitting there observing. They need to participate in the presentation. That tactile approach, that's what creates an emotional response to the quality marketing pieces that we offer. So you start off by saying, well, listen, my job as a real estate professional, as your real estate professional, is to make sure that I do everything possible to market your home as effectively as possible so that the most people get to know that it's available, so that we can get the most interest, create the most value, and get you the price that you are looking for. Now, what I'm about to share with you is my active marketing plan. And I want to start with what I call the big three. Now, the big three are the three conventional, traditional approaches to marketing a real estate property. And this has been ongoing, I think, since the beginning of time. Number one, okay, is the yard sign. Okay. Believe it or not, there are people that still find the home that they're looking for through a yard sign. Now, I'm not making these numbers up. According to NAR, yard signs account for 4% of how somebody found their home. So when you see this graph on the left over here and it shows 84%, I'm going to break it down into three things. I'm talking about the yard sign first, 4%. Now, the reason why I'm mentioning the yard sign is we're going to come back to the yard sign and we're going to talk about how we are supercharging the yard sign. So there's a method to the madness here. Secondly, what all realtors do is they put the property in the multiple listing service. Okay, depending upon the size. My board, my MLS has 60,000 agents. So you know what? A few days after you and I decide to work together, your property is going to be entered into the multiple listing service, which means that in excess of 60,000 very hungry agents are going to find out that your property is available to them. Does this work? Well, it accounts for how 29% of buyers found their home. Now, last but not least, syndication. One of the benefits of being a member of the MLS is that they have agreements with dozens, if not hundreds, of websites that your home will be syndicated to. You may have heard of some of these: Zillow, homes.com, realtor.com. That's going to automatically be shared with them. And why is this important? Well, because 51% of home buyers found a home that they're looking for through any number of variety of these websites. So any agent that doesn't implement this is doing you a huge disservice. Do you have any questions on that? And they're probably going to say, okay, I get it. Now, here's what I really need you to pay attention to, Mr. and Mrs. Smith. The typical real estate agent, notice I didn't say the typical real estate professional. That's elevating them too much. The typical real estate agent will rely solely on these three areas to get exposure for your home. And here's why that's a huge disservice to you. I'm not a math whiz, but because it only accounts for, or as much as 84%, there's 16% unaccounted for. That is a huge percentage of the population that will not even know potentially that your home is on the market. And the typical real estate agent does absolutely nothing to reach that 16%. And I'm going to show you how I'm going to do it. Why is that important? Well, you probably remember this from school, the law of supply and demand. Here's something I have absolutely no control over: the amount of supply, the amount of inventory. So where supply meets demand, that's where the 86% is right there. But here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to increase demand, because the more demand you have for your property, the higher the price goes. So we need to fill that gap so that we can get as close to reaching that 100% as possible. Because look what happens to your home price range. The more exposure, the more demand we're able to create for your property, right? It's exciting, right? This is how I'm going to do this. There's three keys to increasing demand. I have no control over supply, but I can impact demand. And here's what they are. Number one, exposure, right? See, that 16% represents people that maybe haven't even started looking for properties yet. Okay. Of course, if they're currently looking for a home right now, they're probably on Zillow and all that. But what if it's something that maybe they think it's 8 months out or a year out, but if the right home came across their fingertips, all of a sudden everything changes? What about folks that got discouraged, right? You know, maybe they got beaten out several times. Maybe they felt that because of interest rates and prices and everything, they weren't really qualified. And so they just left the market. How are you going to reach them if they're not even looking for a house right now? And here's something that a lot of people don't factor in. A lot of times people find out about a house for them through someone they know, a neighbor, a co-worker, somebody they know. So we need to increase exposure. You're with me on that? Fantastic. Now, repetition, repetition, repetition. Why is that so important? Because we live in a very, very complicated, distracting world right now. I could be driving down the street right now, see an amazing for sale sign, say, you know what? I'm going to call that person. Next thing you know, someone's cutting me off, or the phone rings and it's my kid and this and that. Next thing you know, I totally forget that there was a house I wanted to find out more about. But what if they're getting repeated exposure through it by the ways I'm going to be sharing with you now? The more times a consumer sees or comes across your property, the more they become familiar with it. Last but not least, we need to create an emotional connection. We all know that buying a home is probably the largest financial decision anybody's ever going to make, but it's usually not made on financial basis alone. Emotion has a lot to do with it. So what we want to do is we want to create a connection. We want to shift it away from being solely a financial decision to an emotional decision as well. So the more times that we put your home in front of them, the more likely they are to create an emotional connection with your property. Would you agree with that? And they will say, yeah, I get it. So here's how we start. We're going to supercharge your sign. Yeah, we're going to put the traditional sign up, but then I'm going to put a rider that's very, very special. And then you hold up the rider. Yeah, you guys have it in your box. You pull it out, you put the rider up, and you let them look at it and say, look at what makes this rider so special. The size and the fact that it has photos. One of the biggest complaints that home buyers have, especially when it pertains to signs. When was the last time you ever saw a for sale sign that ever had a photo of the property, much less 3 photos of the property like yours will have? That creates that connection. Now, communication is important, accessibility is important. And here's what your potential buyer will be able to do. They'll be able to call the number on the sign writer, which goes directly to my cell phone. They're going to be able to text for information. Not only will I receive the text, but they're going to receive a link almost instantly, a link with a URL, a link to a dedicated property website. I will show you in a second what that looks like. So right away, they should be, and again, you see the passion that I'm bringing this up. You don't want to do a Bueller say, look, this is exciting, because someone that's going to be standing in front of your home right there on the spot, they can text, and you know what they're going to get? A voicemail recording of all of the property description and all of the property fixed features right then and there. Is that exciting? Yes, it is. Now, digital marketing. Mr. and Mrs. Smith, do you text? Of course you do. Have you sent out any text today? Of course you have, because you're among the 90% of Americans that use text. So knowing that the vast majority of people in our country not only use text, but prefer texting as an initial way to communicate, why would you not give them that option? But that's exactly what the typical real estate agent does. Here's a phone number. Call me. I don't want to call you. But I can text and get the information I want. That's powerful. They'll enter a code and get all the information that they need, because this code is specific to your property. Now, the photos on there, well, what does that do? It creates a higher response rate. It has more views. It's what buyers want. So the way it works is, once we decide to work together, within a couple, 3 days, I'll have a professional photographer come in here. Once those photos are ready, then the sign writer and the marketing tools that I'm about to dazzle you with will be ready to go. And then we'll start getting them out there. You know, I mentioned a website, right? Well, it's more than just a property website. It's a dedicated property website. You're probably thinking, what's the difference? Well, if you've ever been on Zillow, if you've ever been to a lot of these websites, it can be very, very confusing. You're there and all these ads are flashing in your face, right? You got a lender ad, you got a title company ad, you got a moving ad over there. That's not going to happen with this dedicated property website. One of the first things you want to make sure that it has is 100% uptime. We have spared no expense in having the right technology so that when they go to that URL, your home pops up. It's mobile device responsive friendly. You know, not all websites are like that. You've seen websites, I'm sure, that you pull it up on your phone and it's all funky, you can't see it. No, this is mobile device friendly. no third-party advertising to distract them, no competing real estate listings, okay, very accurate information, and no access to some of these crazy automated valuation systems that are out there that give them a price that has no bearing on today's market whatsoever. And that will be ready to go again, which is a matter of a few days. Now, I want to talk about the power of print advertising. A study was done by Temple University's Fox Center for Neural Decision Making. It says people view advertising longer, physical advertising longer than they do digital advertising. What do people do with digital advertising, right? You're on Facebook and they're doing this, swipe right, swipe left. It's just a fraction of a second. Yet people remember physical advertising for a longer time and they recall details more quickly and more confidently than digital advertising. Physical advertising produces a stronger emotional response. That's right. It actually triggers activity in the brain that is responsible for value and desirability. It kind of signals a greater intent to purchase, especially higher price goods, which is certainly what we're talking about here with your home. Now, as I mentioned, I'm going to have this prepared within a matter of days, 188 pieces, but I would like to do is just take a few minutes to show you exactly step by step what these pieces are. First, we're going to have what is called the large flyer. These are 8.5 by 11. Here's where you hand it to them. You need to physically hand it to them. They need to touch it. They need to feel it. They need to see that this is high quality, that it's stock. It's not a newspaper. It's not flimsy. You didn't print this out on your copier trying to save a buck or two. How are we going to use this? Well, these are perfect for open houses because think about this. When somebody walks out with one of these, look at how I got these icons on the left. Emotional? Yes. That experience creates emotion, repetition. They're not going to throw this out. They're going to take this home. Chances are they're probably going to put it up on a refrigerator with a magnet, and they're going to see it over and over and over again. Now, it doesn't score high on the exposure equation because this is not something that they're probably going to distribute to somebody else, but it does score highly when it comes to emotion and repetition. All right. So we're going to have the large flyer. Next, we have the small flyer. Here's what this is all about. Now, these are 5x7, and here's what I propose we do. I propose that we team up in getting these distributed. I'm going to give you half. You take some to work. You take some with you because there are probably bulletin boards, or you may go to a restaurant that you frequent a lot, or you go to a sports bar or a community rec room or something. Pin it up on that board. Pin it up on that board. Have you ever been to a restaurant where there's a bunch of real estate agents' business cards on a board? Whoever takes one of those. Now, this is going to have 3 photos of your beautiful home on there. That is something that they're more apt to grab and use and take with them. Sound good? Great. Now, postcard. This is how we're going to use the postcards. And again, high quality, 8.5 by 5 3/4. It's going to have 3 photos of your lovely home. And here's what I'm going to do with these. We're not going to mass mail these. I have a list of potential clients that I'm going to handwrite these to. I'm going to handwrite these to and mail these to so that they're getting it in their mailbox. By them getting it in their mailbox and them opening, well, that's the beauty of a postcard. There is no envelope to not open and throw out. The message is going to get across right away. So what this is going to do is it's going to score very high on the emotional equation, the repetition, because you know what? They can post it and pin it up there again. And the exposure, because again, they may not even be remotely on the market for a property like this, but they know someone that is, and that can help spread the message you think. Next, business cards. I actually have 2 kinds of business cards to show you. One, and none about these cards are traditional because they each have 3 photos of your home. But here's what I'm going to do. We get 21 of the traditional ones. This traditional one is going to end up being my new business card for the next 2 weeks. When somebody asks me for their business card, this is the one that I'm going to hand out to them. Okay. In fact, I'm going to give you the version that's called the tent version. I love the tent version because it definitely gets people's attention, right? Now, I'll give you an example. I I tend to go get coffee and everything else. Next time I go to Starbucks or one of these places, I'm going to put one of these there on the table there so somebody walking by can look at it and say, huh, what is this? So we're going to work together to make sure that we get these cards out to everyone. And it's not just about marketing me. More importantly, your home's information is on there as well. As you can see, this score is very high on the repetition and the exposure equation. Now, thank you cards. Have you ever received a handwritten thank you card from someone? They're probably going to say, yes. What'd you do with it? I held on to it. That's right, because who does that anymore? Right? In today's digital age, who even takes the time to do that? Well, I do. You know, somebody comes by the open house, I'm going to send them a thank you card, thanking them for coming by here. If it's an agent that had someone that they were showing it to, I'm going to do the same thing with that agent because it's a unique way to market that hardly anybody does. It scores very high on the emotional and repetition component. Okay. Door hangers. You know, your neighbors might want the opportunity to pick their new neighbor. So I'm going to go out, or someone on my team is going to go out, and we're going to pass out these door hangers. I'll probably do it in conjunction, maybe with an open house that we do. We can talk more about that later. But the last thing we want to do is not let your neighbors know that your home is going to be available. In fact, we can even talk about ways about maybe giving them an actual preview on that. We can discuss that later. Last but not least, oh, I love these. When you first moved in here to this property, you remember when you first moved in? Yeah. You probably didn't know what was what, where was what, everything else. You know, so often people that are buying here in our area are coming from someplace else. What if this was available to them? Think about this. Look at this. It's full size, it's color, it's glossy, and it actually lists restaurants in the area, the gym, right? The dry cleaner, where's the pharmacy, where's the grocery store, where's the nearest hospital? Can you see this being of tremendous value, especially to someone that's new to the area? This is something that we have a limited supply of these. So what I would do is if I have someone very, very interested, showing a lot of interest in an open house, yes, I will make sure that I say, you know what, I normally don't give these out, but I sense that there's something about this property that's intrigued you. I want you to find out as much about the area because it is an amazing area with a ton of amenities. So I'll have that available to them as well. Well, folks, let's go back to the supply demand. What did I tell you about supply? No control over it. But can you see how the proper implementation of these incredible marketing, both print and digital, can reach that 16% that the typical real estate agent ignores? And by us increasing demand, we also are going to probably increase their willingness to pay more for your property, right? So here's a situation. We go after that 16%. What can come from that? Multiple offers. See, if you only are getting one offer, it's one buyer trying to get you down as low as possible. By creating more demand and exposure, we increase the possibility of multiple offers. Now you have a bidding war. Bidding wars are to your advantage, folks. You want a bidding war. So we're going to increase the chances of that by doing what no one else or typically anyone